Authorities are searching for a motive behind Monday night's shooting at Michigan State University that left 3 people dead and 5 wounded. As questions remain about the suspect's connection to the university and the exact gun used to carry out the attack, state Democrats are amplifying their call for stricter gun reform. For more on this, I'm joined now by Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel. Attorney General Nessel, welcome, and thanks for joining us. One of those biggest outstanding questions there, how the gunman in this case, who was previously charged with a felony weapons charge, right, how he was still able to purchase a gun. Do you know anything more about that?
So we don't have the details about that right now. And what's not exactly clear to me is whether or not the guns that he had during the course of this offense, whether or not he already had them and just really never relinquished them during the course of the time that he was on probation for the previous weapons related offense.
Is there anything else you've learned about his motive or his connection to the university?
No, not so far, not that we know about. Clearly, he was having some mental health related issues. There's no question about that. That's something that we've learned. And I think that's something that we're honestly going to have to take a very serious look at in terms of what kinds of laws we can pass in Michigan. And not just new laws, but what kinds of policies we can implement for people who, have a weapons related offense, are known to have committed crimes with those weapons, and whether or not they're receiving any kind of mental health treatment, or even whether or not there's any sort of process in place to ascertain whether or not they're having those issues.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that and specifically what kind of laws you think could move forward, because Democrats in Michigan now have a trifecta in state government, right? Control of the governorship, slim majorities in both the state Senate and the House. But Michigan also has both gun rights and self-defense enshrined in your state constitution. Given all of that, what do you think has a chance to move forward?
I think that there are three bills in particular that I expect to see quick movement on. And it's not a surprise to anyone. The governor, in her State of the State address that she gave in January, talked about these particular bills. So we're talking about red flag bills, universal background checks, and safe and secure storage. So for all three of those bills, I expect to see very quick movement on all. I think they're going to pass, and I think the governor will sign them into law.
I should note the state Senate Minority Leader, Eric Nesbitt, had said one of the things to do is to address root causes. He doesn't believe any of these bills would do that. And he says, look, if prosecutors were forced to see through the convictions on the gun violations, as would have been the case in the previous felony charge with this gunman, that is one way, he says, would address the root cause and prevent these from happening. Do you agree with that?
No, I think he's absolutely false. And here's why I say that. You know, carrying a concealed weapon is the crime that this individual, Mr. McRae, was originally charged with. In Michigan, that's technically a 5-year felony, but our guidelines in Michigan really don't even allow someone to spend much time at all in jail unless they have many previous offenses. And as far as I know, this is a first-time weapons-related offense for this individual. That is such a common crime here that if we were to lock up everyone who illegally carried a gun, we'd have to build more prisons. So to me, it's not a matter of incarcerating our way through this problem. It's a matter of making guns less accessible and available to people.
You have a unique view here as the state's top law enforcement official, but also your sons both attend Michigan State University, were there during the shooting. We report often about the trauma experienced by people who not only lose someone in these shootings, but who witness them or live through them or endure the lockdowns. How are your sons doing today?
Honestly, I think probably about the same as all the other students that were on campus when this event occurred. They were really shaken up. One of my kids had just left Berkey Hall just prior to the shooting beginning, and the other, I was to learn later, was sheltering in a house where you can actually see the video of the gunman walking around his residence after he had left the shooting. So just to know how close personally my own kids came to this gunman, it's shocking and it's terrifying. And quite honestly, it's hard to be in a position where you're the top law enforcement official of a state of over 10 million people, but to feel so powerless to help your own kids in a situation like this. And here I am. On one phone, I'm talking to my special agents on the ground who are helping to try to, apprehend the subject. On the other hand, I'm also talking to my kids and trying to give them as much information as possible so that I know that they're safe. And as it turns out, I had very little power to keep them safe in this situation. And it's not a good feeling to have, not just as a law enforcement official, but as a parent. You want to be able to keep your kids safe, and that's what we need to do in the state: is to take extraordinary measures to make sure that all of our kids are safe.
We're glad to hear your sons are both safe, but our thoughts remain with everyone in the MSU community. That is Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel joining us tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.